The family group chat notification came through while I was in a secure briefing room at the State Department. Golden child brother Derek. Just closed on the beach house. 4.2 million. Dad, your investment advice paid off again, raising hands. Mom, so proud of you, honey. Though I worry about Maya wasting her life on that government salary. I silenced my phone and returned to the intelligence report about Chinese cyber operations. My name is Maya Kerrigan, 33, and officially, I'm a GS-15 Foreign Service officer with the State Department's Bureau of Intelligence and Research. That's what my family knows. What they don't know is that I'm actually a covert intelligence officer specializing in financial crimes and international money laundering. My real salary, combined with the hazard pay, operational bonuses, and classified compensation for work I can never discuss, puts me at $340,000 annually. Plus the trust fund from Grandma Kerrigan, the one she left specifically to me before she died, making me promise never to tell my parents the amount. Grandma knew what they were. She'd seen it coming. The beach house Derek just bought? I'd wired him the down payment 2 months ago from one of my accounts, listed as an investment opportunity, through a shell company. The same way I'd funded Dad's successful real estate ventures, Mom's profitable antique business, and my sister Lauren's thriving wellness brand. In the past 8 years I'd quietly transferred $4.8 million to my family. They thought they were self-made. Thought Derek was a genius investor. Dad had a golden touch with properties, Mom had impeccable business instincts. Really, they just had me. Agent Kerrigan? Director Chen's voice pulled me back. Your assessment on the Singapore accounts. I delivered my analysis on the money laundering operation we'd been tracking. 30 minutes later I'd identified the key vulnerabilities in their network. Director Chen nodded approvingly. Excellent work. The promotion to Senior Intelligence Officer is confirmed. Your new compensation package will reflect the GS-16 rating plus operational bonuses. Should put you around $425,000 base. I thanked him and checked my phone after the meeting. 17 new messages in the family chat. Lauren, Maya, are you still working that boring government job? Derek just made $200,000 on a single property flip. Dad, sweetheart, I love you, but when are you going to get serious about your career? Government work doesn't build wealth. Mom, your father's right. Look at Derek, he's 29 and already has 3 properties. You're 33 in a studio apartment. My studio apartment was actually a 2,500 square foot penthouse in Georgetown that I owned outright, purchased under an LLC for security reasons. But explaining that would require explaining everything else. Derek, no offense sis, but maybe it's time to consider private sector? I could get you an interview at my firm. Derek's firm was a mid-tier investment company where he was a junior analyst making $85,000. I'd gotten him the job through a contact at Treasury. He didn't know that either. Maya, happy for you, Derek. Enjoy the beach house. Dad, that's it? No ambition to do better for yourself? I put my phone away and went to meet with my accountant, Richard Chin, who managed my legitimate finances and the complicated web of trusts and LLCs that kept my real wealth invisible. Maya, we need to discuss your family's increasing requests, Richard said, pulling up spreadsheets. In the past 18 months alone, you've transferred $1.3 million. Derek's beach house down payment, your father's estate renovation, Lauren's business expansion, your mother's antique inventory. They don't know it's from me. Yes, but they also believe they're financially successful while mocking your career choice. The irony seems problematic. It keeps them happy. It keeps them delusional. Richard leaned back. Maya, you're carrying their entire lifestyle. Derek's investment portfolio? You're the silent majority investor. Your father's real estate empire? You own 60% through shell companies. Your mother's antique business? You're her primary supplier and financier. What's your point? My point is that you've created a situation where your family believes they're superior to you while being completely dependent on you. What happens when that illusion breaks? It won't break. That's the whole point of the shell companies and trusts. Richard pulled up another document. Your father just applied for a loan to expand his real estate holdings. He listed his current properties as collateral, properties where you hold the controlling interest. The bank will run title searches. My stomach dropped. When? They already started. I received a call yesterday from their legal team, asking about the ownership structure. I stalled them, but Maya, this is going to come out. I stared at the spreadsheet showing 8 years of transfers, investments, and quiet financial support that had built my family's entire illusion of success. How long do I have? A week. Maybe less. The family gathering was that Sunday at Dad's estate, the one he'd purchased 3 years ago with what he called savvy investing. Really, I'd structured the deal, negotiated the price down, and covered 70% of the purchase through a corporate entity. I arrived to find Derek showing off photos of his beach house, Lauren discussing her wellness brand's explosive growth, and Mom highlighting her recent antique acquisition, a $40,000 Victorian settee I'd anonymously purchased for her inventory. Maya. Dad called from the terrace. Come tell us about your exciting government work. File any good paperwork this week. The table laughed. I smiled and poured myself wine. Actually, I did close a significant financial investigation. International money laundering operation. About $200 million in seized assets. Sounds thrilling, Derek said, his tone making it clear he found it anything but. I just made $47,000 on a 3-week property flip. The flip I structured for you? I wanted to say, but didn't. Maya needs to think bigger, Dad announced. Government service is noble, but it doesn't build generational wealth. Look at what we've accomplished. This estate, Derek's properties, Lauren's business, your mother's success with antiques. All self-made, Mom added proudly. We didn't need government handouts or bureaucratic salaries. My phone buzzed. Richard, bank called again. Pushing for documentation. I can't hold them off much longer. You're awfully quiet, Lauren observed. Upset that we're all doing so well while you're still struggling on that government salary? I'm not struggling. That studio apartment says otherwise, Derek laughed. No offense, but at your age you should at least own something. I do own something. What, a car? Dad chuckled. My phone rang. Richard. I excused myself to take it. Maya, the bank's legal team just sent over title search results. They're questioning your father's loan application. They want a meeting tomorrow to discuss the ownership discrepancies. Can you handle it? Not without revealing your involvement. The paper trail is too clear. He paused. There's something else. Derek's real estate firm is being audited. Standard procedure for companies over a certain size. They're going to find your investment structure. How did this happen? You've been too successful at making them successful. The amounts are too large to hide anymore. I ended the call and stood on Dad's terrace. My terrace really, since I held the controlling ownership stake, and felt something shift. When I returned inside, they were looking at photos of Lauren's new Mercedes, purchased with profits from her wellness brand. Profits that were actually my quarterly investments disguised as consulting fees. Maya, you should really talk to Derek about investment opportunities, Mom said. He could help you build something instead of just collecting a government paycheck. Actually, I said quietly, we need to talk about Derek's investments. The room went silent. What about them? Derek's smile was confident. The beach house you just bought. The down payment. Where did you think it came from? My portfolio returns. I've been killing it in the market. Your portfolio is 60% funded by silent investors. Specifically, one silent investor. Derek's smile faltered. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app Richard had created for me, the one showing every transfer, every investment, every quiet wire that had built their lives. $847,000 to Derek's investment accounts over 5 years. $1.2 million to Dad's real estate ventures. $650,000 to Mom's antique business. $890,000 to Lauren's wellness brand. I looked up. All from me. That's not possible, Dad said. You work for the government. I work in classified financial intelligence. My actual compensation is $340,000 annually, plus operational bonuses. And I inherited $8 million from Grandma Kerrigan, the trust fund she made me promise never to tell you about because she knew exactly what you'd do with it. Mom had gone white. Grandma left you $8 million? She left me everything. The house you think she sold. I own it, rented out for $12,000 monthly. Her investment portfolio, my Her art collection? Why? She knew Dad would blow through it in 2 years, so she left it all to me with instructions to use it wisely and never let your father touch it. This is insane, Lauren said. You're saying you've been funding us? Not funding. Investing. Through shell companies and trusts designed to make you think you were successful. I scrolled through the app. Derek, you're successful? Property flips? I structured every deal, negotiated prices down, and bought the properties through LLCs that you then flipped for profit. Dad, your real estate empire? You own 40%. I own 60%. Mom, your antique business? I'm your primary supplier and financier. Lauren, your wellness brand? I'm your majority investor and your largest customer through corporate accounts. The silence was absolute. Why? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Because you're my family. Because I wanted you to be happy. Because it was easier than explaining what I actually do, which involves classified operations I can't discuss. I met his eyes. And because some part of me hoped that if you felt successful, you'd eventually see me as an equal instead of a failure. We never said you were a failure, Mom protested. I pulled up the family group chat on the TV screen using the wireless connection. 8 years of messages scrolled past. Comments about my boring government job, concerns about my struggling lifestyle, suggestions to get serious about my career, jokes about filing paperwork and pushing papers. You've said it constantly. You just use different words. Derek was staring at his phone, pulling up his investment accounts, seeing the truth for the first time. The beach house. You put down $840,000. I wired you $700,000 of it 2 months ago through Meridian Capital Investments, LLC. Which is me. Dad's estate. Lauren asked faintly. I hold 70% ownership through Harrison Property Trust. Dad makes the mortgage payments on the 30% he actually owns. Buy antique inventory? Mom's voice was shaking. Purchased through Chin Acquisitions, my art and antiquities company. You get dealer pricing because I own the supply chain. Dad had sunk into his chair. The loan I applied for will be denied. The bank discovered the ownership discrepancies. They called my accountant because I'm listed as the majority stakeholder in the collateral properties. I set my phone down. Richard tried to warn me this would happen eventually. That you can't hide $4.8 million in transfers forever. $4.8 million, Derek repeated numbly. Over 8 years. Structured carefully to make each of you think you were self-made. I looked around the room. And you believed it. Not just believed it, you used it as evidence that I was the family failure. Maya, we didn't know, Mom started. You didn't ask. In 8 years, not one of you asked what I actually do at the State Department. You assumed I filed paperwork because it was easier than considering I might be good at something. What do you actually do? Lauren asked quietly. I hunt terrorist money. I track international financial crimes. I've helped seize assets from drug cartels, human traffickers, and foreign intelligence operations. Kept my voice level. Last month, I identified the financial network funding a planned attack on the U.S. Embassy in Morocco. My work stopped it. 3 weeks before that, I traced $89 million in illegal arms sales back to a shell company in Singapore. The information I provided led to 17 arrests. The room was silent. I carry top-secret/SCI clearance. I've testified before closed congressional hearings. I've briefed the Secretary of State personally on financial threats to national security. I met each of their eyes. And you thought I pushed papers. We're sorry, Dad said, but his voice was hollow. He was realizing what this meant. Sorry doesn't change the situation. The bank wants documentation for your loan. When they get it, they'll see I own most of what you're using as collateral. Derek, your firm's audit will reveal the investment structure. Mom, the IRS is going to want to know about the sudden influx of high-value inventory. Lauren, your business records won't support your claimed revenue without revealing my investments. What are you saying? Derek's voice was tight. I'm saying the illusion is over. You're about to find out publicly what I just told you privately, that everything you've built was built on my money. You're going to humiliate us, Mom whispered. I'm going to stop hiding. There's a difference. I stood. Richard will contact each of you to restructure the arrangements properly. You can buy out my stakes at fair market value, or we can formalize the current ownership structure with proper documentation. We don't have that kind of money, Dad said. No, you don't. Because your money is my money, disguised as your success. I walked toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I didn't do this to trap you. I did it because I loved you and wanted you to be happy. But you made me choose between your happiness and my dignity. So I chose dignity. Maya, please, Lauren stood. Can't we work this out privately? We could have worked it out privately 8 years ago if anyone had asked about my life instead of mocking it. Now the bank's involved, auditors are involved, and the truth is coming out whether we like it or not. I left them sitting in Dad's estate, my estate really, and drove back to my Georgetown penthouse. The one they thought was a studio apartment because I'd never corrected them. Richard called as I was pulling into my private garage. The bank wants to meet Wednesday. Derek's firm called asking questions. Your mother's accountant reached out about inventory documentation. He paused. This is going to get messy. Let it get messy. I'm done protecting them from reality. What do you want me to tell them? The truth. All of it. Every transfer, every investment, every dollar I've quietly funneled into their fantasy lives while they mocked my career. Maya. They spent 8 years believing they were better than me, Richard. 8 years of condescension and jokes and pity for my struggling government salary. Let them spend the next 8 years knowing the truth. The family group chat exploded over the next week as the documentation went public. Derek's colleagues found out his investment success was built on family money. Dad's real estate contacts discovered he was a minority owner in his own empire. Mom's antique dealer network learned she was functioning as a front for a larger operation. Lauren's wellness brand followers watched her admit her revenue claims were inflated. The messages shifted from mockery to panic to anger to desperate apologies. I read them all. Responded to none. Director Chen called me into his office on Friday. I heard there was some family drama this week. Everything okay? Everything's fine, sir. Just some financial clarifications that needed to be made. He studied me for a moment. The promotion comes with relocation options. London, Singapore, Geneva. Interested? Very interested, sir. Good. Pick one. You've earned it. I chose Singapore. New city, new assignment, new distance from the family that had spent 8 years proving they valued the appearance of success more than actual achievement. My last dinner in DC was with Richard, reviewing the final documentation. Your father wants to buy you out, he said. He's trying to secure financing. He won't qualify. Not with the real ownership structure on record. No, he won't. Richard closed his laptop. You know this will destroy their social standing. They destroyed my dignity for 8 years. Seems like a fair trade. Is it though? They're still your family. I thought about that. About Sunday dinners where they'd mocked my career. Group chats filled with concern about my struggling lifestyle. Dad's estate where he'd laughed about government work not building wealth. They were my family when it was convenient for them, I said finally. When I was the quiet failure funding their success. Now they can figure out what family means when the roles are reversed. I left for Singapore 3 weeks later. The family group chat continued its desperate messages, but I'd muted it. A year later, I'm running financial intelligence operations across Southeast Asia, living in a luxury apartment overlooking Marina Bay, and dating a UN diplomat who thinks my career is fascinating rather than boring. Dad lost the estate when the loan fell through. Derek's investment firm let him go when the truth came out. Mom closed her antique business. Lauren's wellness brand collapsed. They're not destitute. The money I'd given them over the years still exists, once properly accounted for. They just have to live within their actual means for the first time. Mom sends emails occasionally. Apologizing, explaining, asking if we can talk. I archive them unread. After all, I have important government work to do. And unlike them, I actually know what that means.